All right, so it looks like we are live. I am Patrick, and this is our show, Return on Automation. Um, I run a business automation development company called Univium, and so we do this show every Friday just to try and talk about what's happening in AI and automation for small businesses, go over different scenarios, and kind of share ideas about how to implement automation within your business. And so we have a couple different segments. I'll just kind of go over some current events that are happening in AI automation that may be relevant to you or your business. We have a segment called the Automation Hot Seat, where I'll kind of take a stab at telling you how I would automate a certain scenario that I've never really looked at before. So it's kind of spur of the moment type of thing. And then at the very end, we just have various automation questions that I will go over and answer. And so to get started, I'll just kind of go over some of the current events that have been going on recently. So let me get this pulled up. One of the things I think that happened in the past week or so is Google acquired a company called QuantumStart, which just shows that it's still trying to improve its quantum computing abilities and it's still investing in the advancement of AI. I'd say the reason this is significant is a lot of people are asking, has AI hit its limit or is it going to keep going? And so one of the indicators of where things might be going is what leaders in the market are doing. And so the fact that Google acquired QuantumStart and is investing in quantum computing for AI purposes is just an indicator that some people are expecting AI to get better and to improve and whatnot. So yeah, and then another update current event is there's a company called DevRev that released a new product called I think it called it its quote unquote computer released, which it consists of AI tools for workflow automation. And so I'll be honest, this tool actually isn't one I've checked out. I meant to check it out prior to this, but I didn't have a chance. I'm going to look it up just real quick. It says it's called a conversational computer. Uh, and so I'm not too sure what exactly DevRev does. Reading about it, I got the idea that maybe it was something similar to Make.com or an Aiden. Now it's just looking at it, looks like it might be something similar to Motion with like AI employees and whatnot. And so that's definitely a neat tool I would check out is DevRev because it seems like they're starting to advertise and really promote some products that they've been working on. Um, Another update, there's a company called Haptic, which has launched an AI for All initiative. And this is, again, another one that I didn't really have a chance to look over beforehand. Let's see. It looks like Haptic is a leading conversational AI company under Reliance Jio Platforms. It released its AI for All initiative, specifically enhancing its Interact platform. Okay, so this move, it's significant to small businesses because it brings enterprise-grade AI agents to small and medium-sized businesses. And so I guess it's like a conversational AI, either chatbots or maybe voice agents. So I'll do some more research on that, but it seemed to gain a lot of attention. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on. And then the last update we have, and this one may not be entirely relevant, is there's a company called, I guess a organization called WT Enterprise Center, and they have a new course that I guess they're releasing, or a new course they're releasing in Amarillo, Texas. So if you're in Texas, check that out. It should be a pretty good workshop for small businesses, teaching people how to implement AI in their business. And so that really consists of most of the current events we have for the day. So the next segment we'll kind of lead into is our automation hot seat segment. And so what we have here, and in the future, I'm going to try and share these on the screen. For now, I'm going to go ahead and post it in the chat. Let's see. We have a scenario that I'm going to tell you how I would automate it. That's the title of the scenario. And then let me get you all the details. Yeah, there we go. Alerted if missing after 3 days. So automating contractor compliance with Airtable, DocuSign, Google Drive, and Slack. There's a lot of different platforms, but I've worked with all of those regularly. Uh, Not a huge fan of DocuSign. I'd say it's a necessary evil, but I am familiar with it. I have worked with it. When a contractor is onboarded in Airtable, DocuSign auto sends safety agreements. Okay. Insurance docs upload into Drive, and Slack post a compliant, not compliant status with HR. Um, so this is one I would definitely want to question. What is the context? What type of business? Are they talking like an independent contractor or an actual like construction contractor? The fact that it says safety agreements, I would say makes me think it's an actual like construction contractor for whether it's building, renovating a house or a commercial space. Um, so when a contractor is onboarded, Airtable. Okay, so I guess whenever this is what kicks off the automation is in Airtable. Let's say you add a new contractor. So when that record is added, let's say you submit it via a form, DocuSign will automatically send a safety agreement. So Airtable has something called Airtable automations. If you're not familiar with it, it's really a great tool and it's pretty simple. And so you can set up an automation in Airtable where when this record is created, take X action. One of those actions is you can send data to a webhook. If you're not familiar with webhooks, I do have a video on webhooks. Just go to my channel and search that up, and I'll kind of give you an overview of what that is. But it'll send the data to a webhook to DocuSign is what I would do. Or really, it doesn't need to send data to a webhook. It needs to just do an API call to auto send a safety agreement. So in DocuSign, you have to set up a you know a template. So you'd have to put those safety agreements in DocuSign already, and then there's an ID for whatever that template is. And then instead of sending the data to a webhook, I would just do via the Airtable automation, just a direct API call to DocuSign to pass certain data points to go ahead and send out that safety agreement. So you can pre-fill, the email who you want it sent to, their name, their company, any other information you need, populated automatically in that agreement will be sent over, and then insurance docs upload into Drive. So I guess maybe they have to upload a document with their agreement. And so that's one I'm really not certain on. We may have to see. I can't remember if DocuSign will allow them to actually upload a document, or I'm wondering if they're just saying that uh, after they sign it, it goes to Drive. Let's assume by insurance docs they're referring to the safety agreement for this particular case. So let's say they sign it. I primarily use make.com because it has a really good DocuSign module. I use make.com to receive signed documents from DocuSign, and then you can pretty much put them wherever you want. And specifically, it has a really good Google Drive module as well. So save it straight into Drive. You can choose what folder or naming convention you want for the file and for the folder. And then what I would do for that, I think at that same time when I'm uploading the doc, I would also send the document to maybe another make.com automation where we have Dumpling AI. It has a really good OCR feature. I would use Dumpling AI to analyze, that PDF, extract its key contents and whatnot, pass it into an AI that's been prompted for what to review. And then I would go in there and yeah, then at that point, it's just a matter of having the AI say compliant or not compliant, and it will post it in a Slack, which you can also do via make.com. Although I haven't done it via make.com with Slack, I primarily use Innate, but again, Slack has a really good, robust API and API documentation, so that one's relatively simple. So yeah, that's how I'd automate that particular scenario. Definitely, it's definitely a good scenario, and a lot of great tools in there. And so all tools I've worked with, because I just, sometimes I can't say no, and so I end up doing a bit of everything. Um, and so let's take a look at. So I had another automation for the automation hot seat, but it looks like we might not have enough time. I'll send it in case y'all are curious. Just leave a comment, and I'll be happy to go over it again in another video. But I'm going to skip over just to our automation questions because I like to take my time and discuss those. Um, and so we have 3 questions. I'm going to post them in the chat. All right. And that first one is a good one. Oh, the second one is a good one too. For workflow diagrams. Okay. How do I recover from a failed automation rollout? Oh, that's a funny one. Okay. Not a funny one, but So let's look at the first one. What's the first process every business should automate? That is a good question, and that is a hard question. I'm going to have to think on that. I would say so when it comes to determining what to automate, it's not a matter of what can be automated. So my process with businesses is I get them to walk me through their business model. They tell me, hey, every day, day to day, this is what we do. These are our different departments. This is our team. And then here are all our different processes on how we run our team and whatnot. And then I'll go in and I'll look at their processes and I'll say, okay, well, here's everything you're doing manually, and here's all the stuff that you could automate. You're doing it manually. You don't have to do it manually, right? Um, but I would say the key thing here is that. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. Is that out of everything you can automate, we need to figure out what you should automate. So, what's the first process every business should automate? It's not the processes that you can automate, it's the processes that you should automate. Now, what processes should you automate? That would be, so this is my approach to it, is I always like to ask clients, number one, what drains you and what gives you energy? What are you doing every day that gives you energy? What are you doing every day that drains you? Whatever tasks are most draining to you, that's a good indicator that those are the processes that you should automate first. Another good thing to look at is I like to ask my clients what makes them different, what makes them special, what gives them a competitive edge against their competitors, or what allows them to excel at what they do. What is their bread and butter? And so I try to find out like what is that one thing that gives them a competitive advantage? What is their one unique, trait that differentiates them from the market? And so whatever that is, whatever it is that they do that gives them that advantage, we want to make sure that they're doing as much of that as possible. And so that's kind of the approach I take. That looks very different in a lot of different scenarios. But I want to make sure that whatever they're doing that gives them that competitive edge, they need to be doing that as much as possible. So let's look at everything that's preventing them from doing that, whether it's distractions or whether it's they're spending too much time on something at a time of day that they should be doing something else. That they need to be doing. That's kind of what I take a look at. So I'd say you should automate the tasks that drain you the most, and you should automate the tasks that allow you to spend more time doing what gives you that competitive edge. So yeah, that's my answer to the first question. The second question: how do you automate version control for workflow diagrams? So I'm not sure if that's talking about like a automation workflow or diagrams in general. I'd say Make.com and Innate have really good have really good version control uh, methods. You can see your previous versions of your automations and it's built right in there. You just click and you can see, hey, here's the version of the automation I was working on 5 minutes ago. Here it was two hours ago, and here it was 5 days ago, right? Both Make.com and in Aiden have that functionality. That's primarily what I work with most of the time. I don't really work with a lot of, or I haven't worked with a lot of process mapping tools recently. There's a really good one. I'm trying to remember what it's called. um, Miro. Miro is a good process mapping tool. I'm not sure if they have version control. So, so I know probably about 50% of the answer to this question. Um, and let me see the other one. I know y'all can Google this on your own, but I'm going to Google it to try and at least get y'all an answer. There's a company called Mural. Yeah, that is a good question. I may have to look into it some more. Visio is a good one. Honestly, I think like with Visio or even Google Drawings, you can just save different versions. That's probably because a lot of times I've done process mapping on Google. What's it called? Google Draw. Um, and I think you can go to File. Yeah. So if you're making simple process maps on like something like Google Draw, which is a pretty good tool for process mapping, you can just go to File and you can go to Version History, save new version, name it. That's how I would do that one. And then number three, how do you recover from a failed automation rollout? I just get really so a couple of different ways. There's the mental way that I recover, and there is the actual way I help the client recover. Mentally, my first instinct is to get really mad at myself and think, "How did I not see that? How did I miss that?" That sort of thing. And so the first thing is to, I'd say, admit it as a failure. Um, admit it's a failure and go in and you have to really separate yourself because you spend a lot of time on these automations. And so you kind of, become attached to whatever the end vision was. You have to detach yourself from that, admit it was a failure, and you have to go in and, you know, do a logical analysis of, hey, what went wrong here? And then at that point, once you can analyze what went wrong, I'd say actually before you even go to that point, as soon as you know it was a failure, I notify the client and say, "Hey, look, this has failed. I'm looking into it. I'll get you updated as soon as possible." Especially if it's something urgent that their business heavily relies on. Um, then I go in, I do an analysis, figure out what went wrong, and then I do an assessment of okay, what are the potential fixes? What do the fixes look like? How long do we get recovered from there? you know, or how long is it going to take for us to recover? And then I will communicate with the client. I'll say, hey, look, I discovered the issue. The issue is this. We're going to fix it. It's going to be fixed by X date. Let me know if that works with your timeline. Or I'll say, hey, we discovered the issue. The issue was due to X, Y, and Z. We're going to have to pivot a little bit. We can't do what we originally thought. We're going to have to do one of these three options instead. And in that instance, I'd say in that instance, I just wait for them to reply and then I go in and I fix it. I so far I've been lucky. I haven't had to completely scrap and restart an automation from scratch. I've just had to significantly redesign a few of them, and so most of the time it's either I'd say a lot of it is when it's something that's complex and when there's a lot of complexity that revolves around the business logic. And so that's why I always try to keep things as simple as possible. Is as things get complex, it becomes harder to keep track of while you're developing. It's harder to keep in the business context in mind when you're developing and that sort of thing. But overall, I'd say admit failure, communicate very heavily with my clients, and communicate the timeline to fix it and what the options for fixing it are. And then you fix it, and then you learn, forgive yourself, and you keep moving forward. I'd say is the path forward. But yeah, so that covers everything today. I appreciate y'all for watching, and we do this show every Friday at 9 a.m. So definitely tune in next week if you're looking for any updates, thoughts, or whatnot on AI and automation for your business. So take care, and y'all have a nice